We shall never surrender. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. Churchill addressed his people and the world. His words defined the moment. Britain was now alone, and Hitler was drawing up plans for invasion. He was the master of the continent. Across the Channel, only one nation, led by one man, stood against him. He then had the sight and the carriage destroyed. In just 6 weeks, Hitler had conquered Western Europe. He forced the French to sign the surrender, in the exact same railway carriage where Germany had surrendered in 1918. Hitler's revenge for 1918 was complete. He had one final act of humiliation. The Wehrmacht marched down the Champs-Élysées. The City of Light was occupied. The humiliation was total. On June 14th, 1940, Paris was declared an open city to save it from destruction. The remaining French army, brave but broken, was no match. The German Blitzkrieg was unstoppable. With the British gone, Hitler launched Case Red, Fall Rot. The panzers, refueled, finally turned south. The miracle of Dunkirk saved the army, but it had doomed France. But the cost was staggering. The army was home, but all its equipment was left behind. It was not a victory, it was a miracle. An army had been saved. Over 9 desperate days. They rescued 338,226 British and French soldiers. They expected to save 40,000 men, if they were lucky. The little ships would ferry men from the shallows to the larger Royal Navy destroyers, waiting in deeper water. On the ground, a perimeter was formed. French soldiers, brave to the last, fought a desperate rearguard action, buying time for the evacuation. The RAF pilots, many of them fighting for the first time, saved the army below. They were the heroes of the sky. Above the battle, a new fight was raging. The British Royal Air Force, the Spitfire and the Hurricane, took on the Luftwaffe in force. The evacuation was a nightmare. The Luftwaffe was relentless. The beaches were a shooting gallery. From the beaches, the British and French armies, over 400,000 men, saw them coming. It was their only hope. These were not warships. They were fishermen, lawyers and bankers sailing their pleasure yachts into a war zone. Operation Dynamo began. The little ships of Britain answered the call. The Royal Navy knew they couldn't do it alone. In London, a call went out. A call to any civilian boat that could float. With the German tanks silent, the Luftwaffe unleashed hell. The beaches were bombed day and night. The panzers were stopped for 3 crucial days. This was the moment the miracle of Dunkirk became possible. May 24th. The halt order. An order from the highest level to stop the armored advance. And then, the panzers, just miles from finishing the job, stopped. The name of that town was Dunkirk. There was no reserve. The trap was closing. The British army was being pushed into a smaller and smaller pocket around a small beach town. He flew to Paris to meet the French High Command. He asked, "Where is the strategic reserve?" In London, a new Prime Minister had just taken office. His name, Winston Churchill. The roads were clogged. Not just with retreating soldiers, but with millions of civilian refugees fleeing the Stuka attacks. The French command structure, centralized and slow, simply collapsed. They were trying to fight a 20th century war with 19th century methods. They were cutting the Allied armies in two, trapping the entire British army and the best French forces against the coast. They turned west. They raced for the English Channel. This was the Sichelschnitt, the sickle cut. The panzers did not turn south for Paris. They did the unthinkable. The Luftwaffe broke them. The panzers crossed the Meuse River. The French line shattered. The door to France was wide open. The French defenders at Sedan were old, poorly equipped reservists. They were not expecting an army. And then, the real attack. As the Allies moved north, Guderian's panzers, a traffic jam of thousands of tanks, punched out of the Ardennes. Just as the Germans had prayed for, the Allies took the bait. At the same moment, the German feint began. Army Group B slammed into the Netherlands and Belgium. It was designed to hold for weeks. It fell in hours. German paratroopers landing in gliders had neutralized it. A new kind of warfare. The first blow was surgical, from the sky. Fort Eben Mil, the world's strongest fortress, guarded the Belgian border. May 10th, 1940. The phony war ended. Hitler unleashed his Blitzkrieg on the West. Because the real attack, the armored fist, would come through the Ardennes. A forest the French High Command believed was impassable to tanks. It was a trap. The Germans wanted the Allies to advance into Belgium. The German plan was Fall Gelb, case yellow, and it was a stroke of genius. They were preparing for the last war. The Germans were preparing for the next one. Their plan was simple. When Germany attacked, they would advance into Belgium and meet them there, just like last time. The Allies believed any new war would be a repeat of 1914, a bloody, static, trench warfare nightmare. This was the phony war. Britain and France, safe behind their defenses, simply waited. After Poland vanished, an eerie silence fell on Europe. For 8 months the world held its breath.